Anthony Davis, one of your Kentucky boys. I looked at his numbers the other day. He's averaging a double double, 23 points a game and around 10 rebounds a game. But something seems to be off as well with Anthony Davis. Now, the reason why I say that is for 2 weeks you had no LeBron. You still have Russell Westbrook trying to figure out how to play within that system. I thought that was the perfect time for AD to step up and have some monster games, which we know he'll give you 2 to 3 monster games a year. That was the perfect time for him to do so. My eyes tell me that Anthony Davis has been on cruise control since he's been in Los Angeles, especially on the defensive end, which is where the Lakers are really getting killed right now, which is defensively. How do you feel about Anthony Davis right now, his motor heading into this season?
Um, I just felt like it was going to be a perfect test of how far Anthony Davis's like prime talent could take a team, because even though they brought in Westbrook, I feel like the sentiment a lot of people had in like envisioning the Lakers this year was LeBron's waning in years. He's gonna not have to or not need to play as much. You want to save him for the playoffs. So Anthony Davis and Westbrook are gonna try to carry the heavy minutes load and carrying the team throughout the regular season, with LeBron helping and doing the LeBron leadership thing and bringing it all together for a cohesive team. I thought that for the Lakers to have real high end championship success this year, that it was going to have to be Anthony Davis's year to step up and be the guy. Um, the Westbrook thing and the team chemistry, that will come in time. We know who Russell Westbrook is. He's going to have his stats and he's going to have his turnovers, but he's the type of player that's going to really need to familiarize himself with that team and those players to cut down and to even be able to run that team. So that's still none of that's unexpected to me. But like you said, with LeBron James already sitting for a while with an injury, that should have been Anthony Davis's time to shine. And now I'm starting to think that he just has to be a number two guy. Um, he's not going to be the one that consistently leads your team 9-9 out, because in my eyes, what he should have done while LeBron was out was like, hey, I need the ball. I
Right.
need the ball every time. Like, I know we got Westbrook here, but with my talent and what we're doing and my size, like where I'm at, I need the ball. Give me the ball. And I don't know if that's happening or not, but stats wise and everything, it doesn't seem like that. He's putting up good numbers, but not like he's the dominant player on the court and not like he's an MVP type player. And when people talk about Anthony Davis, they see the potential there. They talk about him in that caliber, like one of the top best players in the league. But he doesn't command it like that. And he's been given every opportunity to this point, and I feel like that's why people were still giving him the benefit of the doubt. It's like, let's see him in this position, and then in this team dynamic. Let's see what he does then, and let's see what he does then. And now we're there, and you hear him saying stuff like, "Well, we're not a championship caliber team. We're not this good. We're
Right.
this or that," and that's fine. You are those things, but where's the effort on your part to elevate your game, not just stats wise, but to make your team better?
hmm That's
And
yes.
that's
Yes.
something we're not seeing from him, and that's fine. Like, we might not see that from him, but I think a lot of people have been able to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I think that's finally starting to wane. Like, he's not going to be an A guy. Not that his skills aren't an A talent, but mentally he needs to be the B guy. And without LeBron there, it looks like he's just not feeling it. He's not feeling the effects of what he could bring to that team because he's just not enforcing it. It's like the Kevin Durant situation. Kevin Durant's the best player, could be the best player in the world. You could argue he is right now, but he went to play with Steph Curry. He's always been the one that wants to go play with someone.
Right.
Anthony Davis, from his days in New Orleans, kind of feels that way. He's the one that's going to go play with someone. He's not the guy who wants to be the alpha leader. He knows what he's capable of, and he's happy in his role. But he's at this point, I think it's safe to feel like he's probably not going to step up in like the MVP caliber that we were hoping, some of us were hoping he would do to help lead this Lakers team. So I think now it's just starting to become more clear. Like that's not going to happen now. Like he's been given every opportunity, and he's just not stepping up in the same way. So like you said, he'll have big games, and he's a great number two. But with LeBron
Mm.
being out, it's not the kind of leadership, and not it's not like the kind of performances I was hoping to see.
Yeah, he is. You hit the nail on the head with the hammer. He is a great number two, and it looks like that's what he's gonna be. I've always criticized him. Now let's go. Let's take a trip down memory lane. He was a fantasy darling. Everyone loved him. He put up great numbers. I'm like, yeah, but he hasn't done shit. And the reason why I say that is his numbers aren't impactful. Vince Carter scored a lot of points in this league. They weren't impactful. Carmelo Anthony has scored a lot of points in this league. It wasn't impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Dominique Wilkins has scored a hell of a lot of points in this league. It wasn't impactful. And that's the thing. What can you do to make your team better? And we haven't seen that. We've never seen that from Anthony Davis. So before, when he was with the Pelicans, it was okay. He doesn't have good players around him. I would always say, well, if he's the player that people think he is, he should make his teammates better. Now he's on the team where he has players around him, and we're getting the same output from him. And like I said, defensively, he's gotten worse each year. Each of the last 3 years, he's gotten worse defensively. So that's my criticism of him. Moving on to the next topic, Zion Williamson has been cleared for light practice. What do you think about Zion? Because we've all seen the videos. We've seen the photos. We've seen the Mountain Dew commercial where his face just looks extremely bloated. It's like the reports are that he is well over 300 pounds right now. Do you think Zion Williamson is healthy enough to play in the NBA from a
Um,
cardiovascular standpoint?
Well, I mean, it's just a matter, like with that, it's just a matter of how much you can be out there. But
Mhm.
with him, his body physically just isn't holding up to the pressure of what he tries to do on the basketball court compared with where his physical stature is right now. It's I mean, he came into the season overweight already, and
Yeah,
then he got heavier, and he immediately got hurt because his body's you can't do that. He's not 7'2". He's not going to be able to pull a Shaq and
right.
just rely on his pure size. Plus, Shaq was talented. Not saying that, but I'm just saying Zion doesn't have that size. He can't just get huge and fat and expect to be able to play well. Also, the longevity of his career, just like Shaq's, will be cut down if he tries to go that route. But his success is gonna plummet if he keeps this up. No one's going to want him. He's going to be always hurt because he's a big guy and he's carrying all that extra weight around. And he tries to be an explosive big guy. That's just not going to work. You've been saying it since he came into the league that he's probably going to have to lose some weight. He came in this year heavier than he's looked in a long time. And within 2 weeks, he looks like he gained even more weight. Like, like you're trending the opposite direction, and you're already injury prone and you're already hurt to start a season. Light work is all you can do right now because you need to lose so much weight before you
Yeah,
get to that heavy work.
yeah. I have been a harsh critic of Zion's weight. There's two things that NBA players lie about all the time. There's two: their height and their weight. We never know how tall these players actually are, and we never know how much they actually weigh. When Shaq was in his prime, I would tell people you had to put a question mark behind his weight because you never knew. Shaq was clearly close to 400 pounds at one point, but he was listed at 320. Okay, it just they
Mm-hmm.
always lie. Um, right now, and this is, I don't know when these measurements were taken. I don't know if it was even his rookie year a couple of years ago. Zion is listed right now at 6'6" and 284. I think both of those are a lie. I think he's more about 6'5" and a half, and we know he's over 300 pounds at this point. He may be pushing 320 at this point just by the eye test. He's a big boy, and like you said, he's not as tall as Shaq, who was between 7 foot and 7'2", where he could carry that extra weight. Um, yeah, the injuries did slow him down at the end of his career, but Shaq really wasn't injured at the beginning of his career because he was actually slimmer.
Hmm.
Zion's doing the opposite.
Yeah.
He's doing the opposite right now. I want the kid to do great. Um,
Hmm.
I question his desire. He's an explosive young man. And when you carry that much weight, it's hard to be explosive consistently. And that's my only problem with him. He would have to almost go to a finesse game like Shaq did when Shaq started picking up the weight in Los Angeles. He went to more of a finesse game. Zion has to get that now because trying to be explosive and carrying the weight that he carries, he's going to have a very short career. Those knees are not going to last at all. Another thing I'm curious about is your thoughts on Kyrie Irving because he's going to play this week. I believe he's going to play Tuesday. How do you think Kyrie is going to come out?
Uh, I don't know. Good question. I think. Well, there's no reason. See, I'm torn. Like he shouldn't. He's had plenty of time to prep. I mean, I don't know. He keeps like a lean build, I guess. Like, is he always in game shape? Has he been in game shape this whole time?
I mean, he's
Do
not.
they have
He's
him
not.
on a minutes restrictions? But I mean, I don't know. He needs to come in and just be like the idea of like the ultimate sixth man or something, and just come in and spark like
Mhm.
nonstop. Just get baskets when the team is exhausted. I guess I don't know. If you have him out there the whole time with the starters, I mean, obviously, he starts the game. I just don't know how you run the minutes, or what units you try to keep him in with. Because I would imagine you use him to shore up some of the time when you can't have Harden and Durant, instead
Mhm.
of having them all out there at the same time, um, all of the time. I don't know. I guess that's for those guys and Nash to figure out. But I don't know. Do you think they have him on any kind of like minutes restrictions yet, or they just let him go?
If it was me, I would definitely put him on a minutes restriction. I wouldn't bring him off the bench, but I would put him on a minutes description, and I would still have James Harden be the primary ball handler. And here's why I'd say that: because Harden has had a good last couple of weeks, even though they caught another L last night against the very injured Clippers. Um, Harden has been playing better. So I wouldn't take the ball out of Harden's hands right now. So I would have Kyrie playing off the ball more as a two guard versus the facilitator in the offense. Really quick, hold that thought. I want to go back to our previous conversation because I pulled the list up here on my iPad. So Carmelo Anthony is in the top 10, but he's nowhere near threatening LeBron James or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's 11,000 points behind, but he's number 9. The next active player on this list, and this is just the top 25, is number 24, and that's Kevin Durant. He would have to score another 14,000 points to catch Kareem or LeBron. And I don't think at his age he's going to be capable of doing that, considering he did lose a season. Um, what do you
How
think
old
about
is
that?
Kevin Durant compared
I,
to LeBron James?
I believe there's a 5 or 6 year difference. I can't remember that off the top of my head, but because Durant's sitting at 24,000, he has to hit 38. What do you think?
I don't know. That seems a bit much.
Because
But
consider looking at this list in the top 25. There's only 3 players in the top 25 active: LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Kevin Durant. That is phenomenal. That is
that's wild.
phenomenal. That's wild.
Do you think? And how old is Stephen Curry?
Steph Curry is like 30, 32, 33.
He missed too much time, I guess, early
He
on
did.
to even.
Yeah, remember early in this
Mm,
year, he lost a couple of. He actually lost a full season almost twice with those ankle injuries and that last
yeah.
injury that he had. All right, so get back,
Yeah. Okay.
get back to Kyrie. So, like I said, off the ball, keep the ball in James Harden's hands because I think it'll be too big of an adjustment right now to take the ball out of James Harden's hands and then let Durant be Durant because we know what Durant's going to do every night, 30 to 35 points, and that's it. That's all he needs to do. So my next question is, if the Brooklyn Nets do not win the championship this season, what will the excuse be? Because God knows we heard every excuse in the book last season. What will it be this year?
Well, I'm gonna like basically tell you the same thing I told you the other day because I don't have a really good answer for it other than the stuff we've kind of been saying all season. Because I don't think either one of us had the illusion that Brooklyn was gonna have some kind of like cakewalk, even with Kyrie healthy, uh, just getting into the or getting winning a championship. Um, I didn't. And I'm pretty sure you didn't either. Not that I didn't think didn't have the talent to get there. I just didn't think there was anything else like besides those three, and I didn't think that was enough. Um, and on the flip side of that, you know, we're having to eat crow with our Lakers pick because uh, they don't look anywhere capable of winning a championship right now either. So we'll be the first ones to admit we were wrong there. But I don't know what Brooklyn says or does because for me, it's not a surprise. It's I didn't think it would ultimately be enough because there's nothing else there. Um, the load that Durant and those guys are gonna have to carry, I just think is for a really intense 7 game series against another great team. That the other teams that are there have depth. The other teams that are gonna be there at the end, they have a bench. They have other weapons, and I just don't think that those three guys were going to be quite enough. Now, I could be crazy, that's fine, but I don't know what the excuse is because I don't really, I didn't see it to begin with. I don't know. Their bench, Kyrie Irving missing so much time with the team, um, James Harden coming in and having problems, both with his conditioning and with the rule change. You can't put any blame on Kevin Durant because he's playing like an MVP. Um, I don't know what their excuse is. Steve Nash not being experienced. I don't know. How many things can we pick? The bench all being old and decrepit. What more can you say? But I wasn't convinced of it to begin with. Not to be like, oh, they won a championship. I'm so surprised. It's just I thought it would be a lot for them to pull it all together. And so I don't know. What do you think their excuse is?
Well, I was coming from a fan perspective because we heard all the Brooklyn Dick Riders crying all year about people being hurt, people being out, COVID, yada, 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 yada. So I was wondering, okay, what excuses are left for them to use this year? I went on record earlier this year in one of the podcasts stating that I don't think Steve Nash is going to be the coach next year if they don't win the championship this year because something at that point will have to change. Something will have to change. Because for almost 2 years now, all we've heard is Brooklyn's the best team in basketball. Brooklyn's going to win the championship. And we have stood strong and said, how? It's not going to happen. So we're Kyrie's coming back. They're going to be quote unquote complete. I think some people are going to talk about continuity as far as Irving only being allowed to play in road games. So that might be an excuse somebody would come with. But I asked you this question last year. I believe Kevin was on with us. I'm going to ask it again. If Brooklyn doesn't win the championship, would you consider it a complete and utter failure?
Yes.
Got it. I'm in total agreement with you. Last week, leading into this week, we had a monumental NBA story that I think we kind of talked about it offline privately last week. But where there's smoke, there's fire. But first, How shocked are you that the Nets have lost 7 straight games?
0% shocked.
Are you really?
No, yeah. I mean, these things happen. First off,
7?
um, Atlanta's on like a 7-game win streak, so why not? Listen, or they were something like
They
that.
were, yeah.
They constantly you have Kyrie going in and out, Harden going in and out for whatever type of injury he might have that day. I guess he decides when he wakes up. Um, um, was it Durant with the extra load? It's finally caught to him, and he sit out some games, of course. So I'm not surprised. Plus, we've talked about, I don't know if we've talked about on the podcast before yet, but the idea that Brooklyn is interested in playing more away games for the sake of having Kyrie in more playoff games. So the fact that they might want a lower playoff spot to have him in more games makes more, or we've talked about could make some sense. So the fact that they're losing could be just part of them not being a great all-together team together right now. But part of it could be they're trying to lose on purpose. So I don't know. Like I said, between those two things, I'm not surprised at all that it's added up between 7 games.
Mhm. It's a great theory and one that would make sense for them going forward. I don't necessarily agree with the execution of the theory if that's what it is, but I could see how they would do that. Because if they fall anywhere between 5 and let's say 10, which is the play-in tournament, they're going to be the road team in these playoff series, which will give Kyrie Irving a possible 4 games per series. Well, actually, no, forgive me. Oh my goodness, my math is wrong this morning. Forgive me. It'll give him a possible 3 games on the road versus no games at home. So actually, it'll work out. I think it'll work out. But whatever the case,
When
um,
it's 4 games away, if they took it to a 7-game series,
no,
that is.
no,
For Kyrie, it would be away.
yeah, it will be a way. Forgive me, dude.
Yeah.
It's early.
He could, I was like, you were right the first time.
Dude, it's early.
Okay, okay, I
So,
got
so that would be beneficial, perhaps, for the Brooklyn Nets in that sense. Is it kind of smart? It is. I just don't like the notion of losing for that reason. But it is kind of smart if that's what they're doing. I don't think that's what they're doing right now. I think their losses right now are due to James Harden one out. Um, so last week when we talked, there were allegations that the Nets were going to investigate the Sixers should there be a trade with James Harden, which didn't make sense to me because the Nets would have to be an active participant in the trade. So the report itself didn't make sense to me, but what made sense to me was there might be tampering going on because we know Harden has ties to Philly via Houston. And then this week we heard the news that the two teams are talking about the James Harden trade after the Nets initially said they wasn't going to take any calls about James Harden. So let's deep dive into this real quick. What do you think is going on behind the scenes? Do you think, as I do, that James Harden has requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets?
you. Maybe. He may have not just flat out came out and said, "Hey, I want traded," but through his actions, which we know he's done before, like people knew he wasn't happy in Houston, but then he also was just like blatantly going out when he shouldn't and coming in overweight. Like he kind of tells you to your face, he tells everybody how he feels through his actions, and I feel some of that is happening now. Even if he hasn't flat out asked Brooklyn for a trade, it if you watch enough media coverage around the NBA, a lot of these other guys, they talk about this, saying, you can tell like James Harden isn't happy there, and it might be because of Kyrie. Some of these rumors get started because some of it's just complete fabrication, but then some of it is legit leaked info, and
Mhm.
where we tend to think where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. I think he wants out. How he does that, who knows? Because we know he's forced his way out of other situations too. Like he'll just do what he wants to do, and he'll kind of do whatever he feels like he has to get there. It doesn't matter. Um, So in the tampering thing, it's like I don't know how you would say it was tampering if, like you said, the very next week the two teams were talking about it anyways. I feel like Philly's going to reach out to a lot of teams like this because we know they're asking a lot for Simmons in return. So it makes sense that they would call a lot of teams that have some kind of option. And Brooklyn being in the shape they're in seems like a prime target for something like that. So like you said, it's like doesn't mean Brooklyn has to agree or accept it. Um, and I don't know if they will. They might just finish off this season and, like some of these other guys say, and let him walk when he wants to go or trade him in the off season. But um, I don't know if he gets traded by the trade deadline to Philly for Simmons. I don't know if that's the trade, but it makes sense for Philly to be trying everything they can because that's what they've been doing. But I don't know if Brooklyn bites on it for Simmons. Like I just don't know. Like for this, say you just go into this one playoffs, because I don't trust Simmons going forward anyways. So to me, if you get him, it's more of like you just need to get something in return now. But that, if you're going to make any kind of playoff run, I'd rather have Harden than Simmons, even if he's going to walk, kind of. So I don't know if Brooklyn does it, but it makes sense for Philly, of course, to try.
Well, do you let him walk at the end of the season, or do you trade him now? Because a sign and trade at the end of the season is not guaranteed.
Right. Um. Yeah. I don't know.
It's
I
tough.
don't know what to do. I mean, yeah, because it's also like James Harden, like who might, especially with what he's been doing this year, like who really wants him besides something that might give you Simmons in return? Like I don't know. It's a tough situation for both teams. I'm sure that's why they're talking at all. But if I'm Brooklyn, like, I really don't know what I do because this whole experiment is imploding on itself. It's like, what more can you do at this point in the season but get rid of one of the guys that you're counting on to get you through the playoffs? So, um, I guess it just depends on what they could get in return. So I don't know what kind of other deals are out there, who else they've talked to, if the Nets are even talking to anybody else. That could have just been Philly bringing it up, and the Nets might just have already decided we're going forward with what we have. Fuck how James Harden feels, he can just leave if he doesn't like if we don't win. You know, who knows what their true thinking is? Just because James Harden isn't exactly happy doesn't mean that Brooklyn's going to get rid of him. I don't know.
Well, as a franchise, as people who runs a franchise, you have a responsibility to put the best product on the court. So if you have a player that's disgruntled, so let me go back a little bit. Let's go back to Ben Simmons, for example. He had absolutely no leverage in the decision making of the front office. This was the first year of his 4 year deal. He had no leverage. He asked to be traded. Sixers said absolutely not right now because he has no power. The James Harden situation in Brooklyn is the exact opposite because James Harden holds all the power because you don't let a player like James Harden walk when you can trade him and get things in return. So the time to do it is right now at the trade deadline because, like I said, a sign and trade isn't guaranteed in the offseason. The player doesn't have to do that. If he likes the organization, fine. James Harden has been there for 2 years and hasn't done anything. So there's nothing to say that he's going to be so loyal to Brooklyn that he's going to
Mm-hmm.
allow them to do a sign and trade. Use LeBron James as an example. He didn't just walk from Cleveland. That was actually a sign and trade. So on his way out, he was like, you know what? I'll do this for you so you can get some other pieces. We know LeBron was loyal to Cleveland. That loyalty might not be there with Brooklyn and James Harden. James can walk. So if you're Brooklyn, I'm scared shitless. I'm like, well, if I'm feeling like you're not happy and if I'm feeling like you're going to leave, I'm going to trade your ass now and get the most back that I can get for you. Even though Ben Simmons doesn't want to play in Philly, he may do okay with where we are. And technically speaking, we don't need another guy shooting right now because once Kyrie and once Kevin Durant are back at full strength, we got enough shooting. I can just Simmons can just be a facilitator. So if I'm Philly, I'm making a move now. I'm not gonna chance it and wait to the off season. Because we know this is what we know. First, Harden he woke up one morning and his hand was swollen. Then all of a sudden he missed a game or two. Then all of a sudden he's having hamstring problems again. Well, what happened to the hand? So I call absolute bullshit on that. I think they're sitting him down while they explore the trade possibilities because the trade deadline is Thursday. It is Thursday, and something's going to happen. Um, he's been saying publicly that he's okay with Brooklyn, but there's too much smoke behind the scenes saying that he's not. And now that he's not playing with these sham injuries, I think he may be moved. I really do believe that. And even if someone from Philly leaked out the news that Brooklyn and them are talking, Brooklyn could have easily came right back out and said, once again, we're absolutely taking no phone calls regarding James Harden, right? I haven't heard anything from Brooklyn. So I think they're working on something. I think for the sake of the fans, they're trying to make James Harden look as good as possible because I can tell you now, those fans in the message groups, those fans are already turning on him. Like, and it's nasty. It's really nasty. Um, so I think they're trying to make him look as good as possible while they find a resolution that's going to benefit both parties, which is trading him by Thursday. That's just me. That's just me.
It wouldn't surprise
Next,
me.
next question.
No,
No,
speaking,
go
they
ahead.
should they should talk to the Lakers and see if they can trade Harden for LeBron James since he's on the way out.
That's the rumor. But before we touch on that, here's my next question about the Nets. So we have taken great God. Brooklyn's gonna hate me when I put this in the message groups. We have taken great joy for close to 2 years now on the Nets doing absolutely nothing. Excuse me, absolutely nothing, and coming up with every excuse in the book, even to saying Kevin Durant's foot was too big. Okay, if they trade James Harden, how big of a failure would this experiment be to you?
I mean, it's a failure without a championship. So, um, pretty. I mean, this just shows Brooklyn keeps trying to. Once in a while, they'll collect enough money and they'll buy enough of these players to
Mhm.
come there. This is what's been going on for like 10 years, it feels like 10, 15, 12 years, something like that. This was the best attempt yet at that. So they got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to come there, which from just those two alone, from the beginning, made me question whether it could work. Not
Mhm.
because of their talent, but because of a combination of team chemistry issues, on court chemistry issues, and health issues. Just between those two guys being there, it quit. I was like, let's see if they can put all this together at the same time and actually win games. Because so far we haven't seen that a whole lot outside of Kevin Durant on Golden State. And Kyrie and it's like one playoff stint with LeBron where they won the championship. So right there, it had me questioning whether or not it could be done anyways. So then you find out all the way the culture is in Brooklyn and everything that all the power they've given these two guys and how wish-washy that can be by having those two guys kind of control everything. And then you bring in the ultimate wild card in James Harden and how you think not only two question marks, but now you throw in three question marks and you have to mix it all together and they all have similar issues. Why you think those three guys with similar issues can make all the other guys' issues go away all at once and you all be healthy and play basketball at a great rate? Why they thought that would actually happen is the weird part. It's
Mhm.
not like those three on paper doesn't win you a championship. That's not what I'm talking about here. I never once said that if those guys were healthy on the court together, that they wouldn't be able to win games. I never said that. I always said I just didn't think we'd ever actually see that. And that is the problem. And by the time we're getting close, Kyrie's healthy. Oh, he doesn't want to get the vaccine. That's fine. I'm all for people having their own opinion on that. But the price to pay is you don't have Kyrie on the court.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why. That was our original issue. It's like, what is it that's going to take these people away from the team? Well, because of that, we're seeing disinterest on James Harden's side. It's like, well, if Kyrie doesn't care, then I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole culture is the team is what do the 3 stars think? Well, when 2 of the 3 stars don't give a shit, Kevin Durant is going to be the only guy in the playoffs playing his heart out with a trash team, and they're going to get clipped by a good team because he's overused. And then this year it'll be his other foot didn't make it over the line, but it'll be because he's overworked because he's the only one caring. But the problem is he's not the leader, so he's not setting a top-down like implication of what he expects. So nobody cares. Even if he cares, he's not playing the role he really needs to play to make everybody else care the way he cares.
Right.
LeBron James makes guys care the way he cares. If you don't, you can get off the fucking team. So that's the difference. They don't have a leader. 2 of the guys can take basketball or leave it, or at least the team take it or leave it. So, like I said from the beginning, you brought in 2 guys who we thought had issues, and then you add a third one. And why anybody thought that would actually lead to a championship is beyond me. Because yes, the talent's there, but they're never on the court, or at least not at the same time. And if they are, they all don't care at the same time. So there's too many things working against you all the time. So no, I'm not surprised. I don't think they're going to win a championship. I'll be surprised if 2 of the guys are left when all of this is said and done. They'll probably just go forward with one of them. But no, none of it's surprising to me. And we've talked about this for those reasons since it started. And now it's coming to fruition, and the fans are having issues with it when the writing's been on the wall the whole time.
Yeah. The entire time, entire time. It was a poorly constructed team to begin with, and I'm talking about the others now. From their roster from 1 to 15, after those 3 men, you have absolute and utter trash on that team. So the roster was built badly. Kevin Durant had too much run at the beginning of the season, which is why he's injured now. Let's say that. And we called that. We said if he keeps playing like this, because those other 2 guys, Harden started off slow. Kyrie wasn't playing. Like if Kevin Durant keeps this up, he's going to be injured. And look at what happened. He was injured.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't wish it on him. We just knew it was going to happen. So you have a poorly constructed team. You have Kevin Durant. He's one of those lead by example types on the court, but he's not a vocal, demonstrative leader, like you said, like LeBron James can be. And that's what that team needs right now. But they're distracted because, like you said, the culture of that team is just so abnormal. They're distracted, and their product on the court isn't the most important thing. Anybody can come on TV and say, I want to win a championship, and I'm here to win a championship. But your actions can show something else. And that's what's going on with Brooklyn right now. All those old guys right now are coddled. They have fat cat syndrome going on. There's no way they're going to win. Look, the Lakers night in and night out give more effort than the Nets do, and the Lakers have a worse record right now for other reasons. But I watched the Nets game, their last game against Utah, and that was an absolute ass raping. It wasn't even close. And you had Kyrie out there, you had the others out there, and Kyrie shot horribly, and their defense was non-existent in that game. So all I'm going to say is kudos to us because we saw this train wreck coming 2 years ago when it first happened. We've been vocal about it. We've caught heat about it, which we don't care, but we're happy because we told you so.
Yeah.
We are absolutely happy. Now we're
Mm-hmm.
going to go into some playoff matchups, and we're going to touch back on Brooklyn again because it's very interesting what's going on right now. We have about 11 to 12 games left. There's some gaps of 3 or 4 games. So the playoff picture is, I would say, 90% set. So now we can dig a little deeper into it. I'm going to start with the Eastern Conference because we talked about the Western Conference a little bit last week. Play-in game number one, the ninth and 10th spot. Charlotte's 9, Atlanta's 10. Whoever wins that will play the loser of the second play-in game, which is going to be between Toronto and Brooklyn. So this is how it works. The winner of Toronto and Brooklyn gets the 7th seed, and they see Milwaukee in the first round. We could have a first round matchup between the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. You see, you see this? Look, do you see this?
Hard not
Basketball
to.
gods, basketball gods. I need this in my life. I need Brooklyn to win one game so we can have Milwaukee and Brooklyn in the first round. So let's dig deeper. Philly is looking at Cleveland in the first round. That one might flip flop a little bit, but right now, Philly's looking at Cleveland in the first round. Bryce, we can have Philly and God forbid Brooklyn in the second round of the playoffs.
If though, I mean, Philly's got to play Cleveland.
Yeah,
There's a chance Philly could got.
their center's out, and he's probably going to be
Oh yeah,
out.
chance.
He's probably going to be out for the first round. He may be able to come back for the
Mm,
second round. Well, forgive me, this will be the first round matchup, so he may be out for that first round. But on paper, Harden, Embiid, Maxey, Harris, they should beat Cleveland. Cleveland hasn't
they
been there
should.
before. Yeah, they should beat Cleveland. So the basketball gods, I'm on my knees praying right now. We can have Brooklyn and Milwaukee in the first round, which is going to be an absolute dogfight. And then the winner of that series will have to go through, presumably, the Philadelphia 76ers. Okay? How bad do you want this? Because I want it bad. I have other reasons. We'll get into that later.
No, no,
Oh,
no,
I
no.
want it.
I want Brooklyn to lose it if they I think they get in through the play-in, but I think they lose to Milwaukee again. At least
Mm.
I want them to lose to Milwaukee again. And because I want Milwaukee and Philly more so. I think that I don't know. I just don't want Brooklyn there.
If
But
Brooklyn
but
loses,
I've been so wrong about the Lakers winning the championship. I'm
hey,
gonna be right about Brooklyn not winning
look,
one.
look, we took so many L's last year, right? Um,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
Brooklyn loses in Toronto, well, the game's gonna be in yeah, the game's gonna be in Toronto. If Brooklyn loses, then they play excuse me, they will play the winner of Atlanta and Charlotte. If Brooklyn wins that game, then they're looking at Miami in the first round. Okay. So, of course, you know me. I want the easiest path I can get. I need that easy in my life. So I need Brooklyn to beat Toronto. I need Brooklyn to play Milwaukee. I need the winner of them to play Philly. And guess who's going to be sitting in the conference finals? Just
That's a lot of what ifs though. Also though, I think my new pick for a championship is the Heat. I'd like to see them play one of those teams. I'd like to see them play Brooklyn. I'd like to
oh, we're
see
not.
them play someone.
No,
So it's you're gonna end up with one of them in the conference finals, anyways.
right, right. Which I told you. I said I don't know. This is what I said months ago, and you agree with me. I said I don't know how the standings are going to go, but I know Miami and Milwaukee is going to be there in the end. So if Milwaukee has to beat Brooklyn and then has to beat Philly to get to us, oh, that's fine. Because we'll make short work of Chicago, which we've owned all year, Boston, which we've owned all year. Brooklyn still hasn't beaten us yet, I don't believe. So the Heat has the best record in the Eastern Conference against the other good teams in the Eastern Conference. That makes sense. Plus, we also have the third best home record in the league, and I believe the best home record in the Eastern Conference. So Miami having that number one seed is highly important right now.
Mhm.
If Miami was a lower seed, I would be like, we might get to the finals. I don't know. If they keep that number one seed with 2 weeks to go almost, they're going to the finals. Um, because I believe the bottom half of the bracket is just loaded. It's absolutely loaded. And it's going to be some beautiful, absolutely beautiful basketball. But whoever comes out of that to play Miami, man, they're going to be wore the fuck down. They're going to be so worn down. Um,
Who do you think poses the biggest threat to Miami this year? I mean,
oh my, oh
look,
Milwaukee.
The Bulls haven't been a joke.
Oh,
Boston's been getting a lot better. Milwaukee has been Milwaukee most of the season when they've been healthy. So you still see it as it's Milwaukee.
mhm.
Like you're not taking Chicago
No,
or Boston as
no,
seriously this year.
no,
Next year,
no. Chicago more so than Boston. I'm taking the Milwaukee Bucks. I want, look at my face.
mm,
I
I'm
want,
tired of it.
I need the Milwaukee Bucks. This will be the
Mm,
third year in a row. This is the rubber
it's the rubber
match.
match.
We have home court just like they had home court last year. The first time was played on neutral ground in the bubble where we beat them so bad they ran out the bubble crying. They beat us so bad last year we were crying. So I need this in my life. I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but I want it.
If you get it and y'all lose, I'm gonna buy you a Giannis jersey
No,
just
don't
so
buy
you
me a
never
no 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 no
forget.
no no no. Don't buy me a Giannis
No,
jersey.
no, no. I'll get you a holiday
You
jersey
there you go. There you go. You gotta get me a holiday. I own that.
to
I
go
own
next to your
that.
Chalmers.
Look, yeah, get me the holiday jersey so I can wear that bitch.
I do
Um,
think the Heat. I do think we're gonna see the Heat in Mil. I hope we see the Heat in Milwaukee. It's Brooklyn's a wild card, but I think the Heat in Milwaukee is a very good bet to make. I did want to ask you, who do you think? Because Trae Young and the Hawks have been playing better. Who do you think wins between Charlotte and Atlanta in that playing game? Because that's going to be a tough game between two exciting young teams and two
that's gonna be a
exciting
hell of
young
a
point
game.
guards.
That's
Yes.
gonna be a hell of a game. It's gonna be an absolute hell of a game. The Hawks are still kind of banged up. Charlotte is the higher scoring team in the league. The Hawks aren't that great on defense. I'm going with the Hornets on that. Um, I've seen them play a few times. They are absolutely horrifying in a good way on offense. Like those young boys fly. They got a whole team of high flyers, and then they got the one of the best point guards I've ever seen to distribute the ball. So yeah, that team there is amazing.
One other
And
quick
there,
question.
what's up?
I'm sorry. I thought you were going to end it right there.
No, you got no. What's your question?
No. So Brooklyn's going to have to play Toronto
Yeah,
right now.
and Toronto's been playing good too now. That's is
Toronto just beat Brooklyn twice.
I I
I
I
know
know
there
it.
was things going on there with both teams, but like, what do you say if Brooklyn loses to Toronto in
Well,
the play-in?
if they lose to Toronto, they're not eliminated. So they still have. Oh, forgive me. They are
Mm.
eliminated. No, no, they're not. Okay, forgive me. Playing shit stupid. Playing shit so stupid. They're not eliminated. I would prefer them to beat Toronto so I don't have to worry about Brooklyn in the first round.
Hmm.
I just want the easiest path I can get because I believe Brooklyn will beat both Charlotte and Atlanta. So I don't.
Yeah,
I I need them to go ahead and beat Toronto. I need Toronto to go ahead and lay down. You know, knowing to just lay down, just take it, bend over and take it, so we can have Brooklyn and Milwaukee in the first round. And I'm gonna tell you something. I think the NBA will move mountains week to have Brooklyn and Milwaukee in the first round. Might be some shenanigans that night.
maybe, maybe it wouldn't. That
So
wouldn't surprise me either.
yeah, might be some shenanigans that night. All right, so we're gonna move to the Western Conference. Playing game number one, Minnesota and the Clippers. Minnesota just completed the. Well, no, they didn't complete the Florida sweep. Miami fucked up last night, but you guys beat them, I think. And
But
then,
they were playing good up to that point.
yeah, they have. They have been. They've won like 35 of no, they've won 25 of their last 35 games or some shit like that. And they've
Okay.
quietly done well. So you got them and the Clippers. I'm actually going to go with Minnesota on that one. And
Yeah,
then you're looking.
yeah.
And then you're looking at Minnesota and Memphis in the first round. Woo! Playoff game, play-in game number 2, right now, surprisingly, the Pelicans and the Lakers. I think the Lakers are going to win that, even though the Pelicans beat the shit out of them by like 29 a
They
couple of
did.
weeks ago. I think the Lakers are going to win that, and the Lakers are going to set themselves up for the loser of Clippers and Minnesota. Lakers kind of had problems with Clippers this year.
Lakers had
And
trouble with everyone this year.
well, the Lakers want Phoenix. We talked about this
Mhm.
last year. They want Phoenix very badly. Um, Utah and Dallas. That's the 4-5 matchup. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Golden State and Denver. The 3-6 matchup. That's going to be a good one too. But I'm looking at Minnesota and Memphis because that could be the future um, of the
Hmm.
West. So I'm looking at that with both teams. Because like I said,
Yeah.
Minnesota's been playing impressive. That Anthony Edwards kid is no joke. We know Ja's an MVP candidate.